Oh no. We're gonna be talking about all 10 of these books today. And yeah, can you guys see like my hand like stressing to pick this up? Okay. Ooh, okay. I'm gonna put these down on the floor because this is very heavy. Hey guys, so this video feels kind of weird to be filming because I have not filmed one of these in like a long time, like basically since the beginning of the year, since last year, I think, since I did like my 2023 wrap up. But today I'm bringing my summer of 2024 wrap up. I was going to try to do monthly wrap ups this year, but I really was not reading too much, so I decided that I'm going to be doing seasonal wrap ups. Maybe I'll get to monthly if I start reading more. For right now, we're just going to do seasonal wrap ups, or like every few months. So in this video we're going to be going through all the books that I read in June, July, and August, and all of the books that I read this summer because school starts for me tomorrow on Monday. It's my last year of college, which just makes me feel so old. Like, I'm 21, about to graduate college. Like, 17-year-old me could have never even imagined. But I'm gonna show you guys all the books I read this summer, and then I'll do one at the end of the fall. I have so many exciting like reading vlogs for this fall, guys. I'm finally back into like where like I want to read a lot. I want to read for fun, and I just want to be able to kind of de-stress after school and be able to read and all that kind of stuff. Be on the lookout for all those kind of vlogs. But today I think it's going to be a longer video because I really want to dissect into all of these books. Some of them are romance, some of them are fantasy. I think a good bit of them are fantasy, and then I've actually been stepping into general fiction or like women's fiction this summer, which has been really great because I love romance books. Don't get me wrong, I love romance books as much as the next girl. Like, that is where my journey started, is romance books. But I'm hoping to go more into like fantasies and going into more like general women's fiction because I don't want to only read romance anymore. I really want to read stuff that has like more of a meaning. Not that romance books can't have meaning, but like if I want to read a romance book, I want it to have like heartfelt, like I want it to be more than just this person loves this person and they break up halfway through because there was miscommunication. Like, I want to get to know a character and dissect them and be like, okay, this feels like an actual person. Or fantasy, where it's just like, okay, here's a trial, go do something cool. I don't know, I want to see a movie in my mind. But yeah, we're gonna go through all these books. I'm gonna dissect them, I'm going to talk about them, and I'm gonna share just with you guys what I read this summer. So let's go ahead and just get started with it. So the first two books kind of do go together, but the first one is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I do have the original copy of it, which makes me so happy. But this was the first book that I pretty much read this summer. I DNF'd so many books in May. Like, I would start a book and then I would stop. I would start a book and then I would stop. I was trying to read just any kind of like romance book, and then I was like, I just cannot do this anymore. I just did not want to read a romance book. I really did not know what I wanted to read, and I just wanted a comfort read. You'll pretty much see just throughout this summer, like, I really did not try out too many new authors or too many new books. Like, I kind of returned to a lot of the books that I have already read because, as I said, I was in a really big reading slump up until pretty much May. Don't really know why. I just couldn't read anything. It was really hard for me to read, and Fourth Wing I thought would help cure that. So this book, if you guys don't know what this is about, I'm going to briefly say because I'm sure that a lot of you know what this is about. You follow this girl, Violet. She is being sent to this dragon school. I don't really know exactly what the dragon school is called. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of forgot. But she goes here, and then they have 4 quadrants. There's like scribes, healers, writers, and something else. I don't really know exactly what else is in here. But she gets put, but she wants to be a scribe. Her mom is a general and basically like, no, you're gonna be a writer. Like writer, like you're riding dragons, not writer, but like a rider on a dragon. And she's like, I'm gonna die. And her sister's like, oh my gosh, she's gonna die. She goes through the writer's quadrant. She actually does really badly, but she survives pretty much most of it. But you see her like connect with dragons. So she connects with 2 of them, which is super unheard of because it's really hard just to pair with 1 dragon, and she pairs with 2. I don't know exactly what they call it. There's a lot of technical terms that I'm just missing while I'm describing this, but it's okay. But then as you're reading the book, you meet Xaden. Xaden is kind of like, you have 2 different groups in this book. You have the group that is like the elitist people, and then you have the children of those who rebelled against like the elitist people who rebelled against the government that is basically being punished now. And Xaden is one of those kids that is being punished because his dad was a rebellion man, but he's in the writer quadrant, and you get to see him and Violet. It's a really good enemies to lovers. Like, this book is not just about the plot, it really is about, like, the enemies to lovers, but it does have a really good plot. Like, I say, like, oh my gosh, like, the romance, like, is the forefront, but, like, the romance kind of is, like, why I think a lot of people read it, or why a lot of people picked up to read it, was because, like, the romance is really good. The romance is absolutely amazing in this book, but also, I don't want to discount the plot. Like, the plot was really well thought out. Like, I really enjoyed it. Like, I've never been a huge fantasy reader. As I say, there's, like, a shelf of fantasy books behind me. I don't know, just the way that it's set up, like, it's not spectacularly written. Like, I wouldn't say this is very, like, beautifully written. It's not very, like, mind-changing kind of written, like, the way it's written, but the plot and, like, the connection of the characters just makes this book so good, and it pretty much drives the entire book. Like, whenever you pick up Fourth Wing, you're not picking it up for an amazing style of writing, you're picking it up because the plot is actually good. And this, like, just proves that you don't always need the best writing to be a good author. Like, a lot of it, like, yes, you want to be a good writer because you don't want to be like this and this and this and jumping around, but just to come up with what goes on in this book and to execute that in a way that, like, is actually, like, really good and keeps a reader reading, that counts for something. Like, that's credit for something, you know what I mean? But I did really enjoy this book. I did love it. This is one of my 5-star reads just in general of 2023, now of 2024, and I'm just really happy I got to reread it. I did not annotate my copies. I also have the holiday edition, which, like, you can't see it because of the flowers right there, but I do have the holiday edition. I did not annotate these books. I probably will never write in them because they're just beautiful. Like, I don't want to write in them, which I usually write in all my books, but I do not want to write in these. I really love this book, and that pretty much brings us to the next book that I read, which is Iron Flame. This book is hefty. It is much thicker than the first one, and oh my gosh, guys, the plot twist that Iron Flame brings you through, the absolute, like, craziness that happens in this book, I could not put this book down. This book was just so good. I think I was listening to it at work, and I'm, like, listening to it, and I'm, like, the second time reading it, you really just realize, like, oh my gosh, so much is going on, and, like, this actually means this. The first time I read it, I'm not gonna lie, I was really confused. The second time actually knowing what goes on in this book and being able to reread it, like, wow, like, I just got it so much more, and I got it so much better than I did the first time. I do think at some parts of this book specifically, it slowed down to a point where I was like, I don't really know what's going on, but I also do know what's going on, but it's also, like, really slow. The first, I want to say 200 pages of this book specifically are really slow. The first 200 pages, like, something happens and then you follow that for a bit, but it almost drags on a little bit too much. I would have loved to see this book, like, cut out maybe like 50 pages of the first 200 pages, but it does pick back up, and then the ending, like, the last 3 pages are absolutely insane. For those who have ever read Vampire Academy, if you know what happens to, like, the main guy of Vampire Academy and, like, later on in the books, I kind of think I have an idea of how Iron Flame is gonna go, or, like, the next books after Iron Flame is gonna go, because I've read Vampire Academy, and it kind of follows that same-ish plot. Like, not all the way. Like, she didn't copy, like, the plot that's going on in Vampire Academy, but I can see resemblance, and let me just say, I'm really excited to see where this is gonna go, to see how she handles what I believe that she did in the last chapter of this book. So, I'm really excited. I also have so many theories about who the villain is, and, like, who we should trust, because there's a lot of people that we're seeing right now that I do not trust, or that I'm just very weary of, that I think a lot of people aren't thinking about online, but we shall see. But yeah, these 2 books, just the whole entire Fourth Wing Empyrean series in general, I really do love it. I don't think it's the absolute most amazing writing in the world. I never have, but the plot is just, the plot of these books is just where it's at. The romance of these books is where it's at. Like, it's just so good. And as I said, you don't need absolutely amazing writing to be able to say, like, this book is good. You just need a really good plot. You need somebody who executes that well, and I believe that Rebecca Yarros executes that very well in these books. So I'm really excited for the next one that comes out in January, and these were the first 2 books I just read this summer because I really just wanted something that I already knew and something to keep me going. So these were the first 2 books. So the next book I read this summer was actually a new one, and that was All My Kisses for You by Monica Murphy. On my Goodreads, it says I rated this book 4 stars. Looking back, I really don't even remember what this book was about. And not that I would, like, lower my rating, because I'm sure at the time it was great, but, like, a 4-star book is like, I can remember what it's about. Like, it just, I don't remember anything about this book. I'm not gonna lie. I know that it's about Willow. Willow is the daughter of Crew and Ren from the first ever, or the second Lancaster Prep book, A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime. She's the daughter of them, and you get to see her go to the Lancaster Prep school, and she meets this guy, Rhett. Rhett's a football player. Lancaster Prep is apparently really big for football now. She does come back from, I think, like a boarding school, or like, she did a year in England, I believe. Like, her family and her like lived in England. She did a year of school there, and then she comes back and she's like, oh my gosh, everything has changed. Why has everything changed? And she used to be like the it girl of the school, and now she's kind of not. And her friend is basically like, you know, like, just a lot of things have changed, and like one of her used to be friends is not her friend anymore. Like, she's really like just super not a great person. And you get to follow Willow as she kind of goes around like the school, but then she meets Rhett, and she's like, I don't really know exactly how they even interacted with each other. I guess I remember liking their story, like being like, okay, they're together, I don't hate it. I don't remember, because I rated it 4 stars. I don't have many thoughts on this book. I guess I liked it. I love the Lancaster Prep series. I'm not gonna lie, guys, that is one of my favorite series ever by Monica Murphy, or just like in general. And they're not the best writing either. They're just more entertaining than anything. A lot of the books you will find, I don't read because the writing's good. I read because I'm entertained. Now my 5-star books, those are where like the writing's good, even though Fourth Ring doesn't have the best writing. It has a great plot. My 6-star books are where the writing is like superb, spectacular. Like, they're basically poetry to me. But the series does not have the best writing, but it's really good. It's really entertaining. I always think of kind of like Gossip Girl mixed with, what is it called? Like, I would mix it with like a Gossip Girl, but if it was like not super like, what's the word, out there, like sexy, I guess. Like, I don't know what you would call this series, like what you compare it to. Kind of like Gossip Girl, I guess, but just like without the texting and all that. Like, it's set at a boarding school in New York. That's really where I get Gossip Girl vibes from. But I guess I did like it. I don't know. It's like, it's very much gives off like she's like a goody two shoes, and he like makes her not a goody two shoes anymore, even though he's not like a super bad guy. He's just a butthole. I don't know. Anyways, I'm not gonna keep on rambling about this book because I don't have much to say, but that was All My Kisses for You. 4 stars. Even though I'd probably say 3 stars now because I can't remember anything about it. I don't know. And then the next book that I have is Happy Place by Emily Henry. Oh my word. My goodness. Guys, I love this book so much. This was the first Emily Henry book that I've ever read. It makes me want to read more of her books. This book is like, okay, wow, I understand why everybody loves Emily Henry so much. Like, I understand it now because her writing is just, it's so beautiful. The way that she makes characters really just come to life. The way that she just describes like everything going on is just so amazing. I did listen to this book more than read it. I read some of it on my Kindle. I listened to some of it on audio, and then I read some of it paperback. But a lot of it was done audibly because I have work during the summer. But it was really good. I really enjoyed this entire book. Following these 2 characters, Harriet and Wynne. Harriet and Wynne used to be together, and then they decided that they are gonna call up their engagement. They were together for like 6 years or so, and every single summer her and her friends, they go on a vacation, and they go up to, where is it, Maine or something, Harbor. They go somewhere up like the coast, like the East Coast. This is like the last summer that her and her friends are basically gonna do this, and it's kind of like, you're feeling nostalgia as you read it. You're feeling like, wow, like, let me think about everything that I used to do that I don't do anymore, or that stuff that I used to do with my friends that we just don't do anymore. And it's just like, wow, we have grown up. Like, this book made me feel nostalgia for stuff that I haven't even experienced yet, or like stuff that I have experienced that I'm like, wow, like, we need to do that again, and we're still actively doing it. Like, I don't know, it made me feel kind of way. Like, I really want to reread it in my last year of college, just because I'm like, wow, like, I want to relive everything. But you're following them too, and they call off their engagement, and then they go on this trip together, and they have to pretend to be engaged. And it's kind of like, how did their friends not know that they weren't engaged with how they were acting? I don't know. But you also get to see not just like their relationship, like their relationship is not the forefront of this book. I would say a lot of like the friendship is the forefront, like a lot of like her family and getting to know her and getting to know even just them as people, because you see them now and then you see them in the past, like the past times that they got on this trip, or just like the past in general that they were like in college and all these things. I did mark a few quotes. Oh, I really like the quote on page 223. In every universe, it's you for me, even if it's not me for you. So sweet. I'm not gonna lie, Wynne kind of annoyed me. Harriet kind of annoyed me because I'm like, you're whiny anyway. Sometimes I don't like it whenever like authors portray like their main girl characters as whiny, but I thought Harriet was a little bit whiny. That could have just been me perceiving that. But, and Win did annoy me, because I'm like, Win, you're not really doing anything, but also like you are, like, you show that you care without like really showing it with your heart. Like, I don't know, I feel like he just did some stuff just to do it, and at the end he was like, I'm so in love with you, and I'm like, I can see like where you can find those little pockets of things as you're reading through the story, but not a whole lot. I did really enjoy this book. I did give this book a 5 stars because of the way that it made me feel, and like the writing itself is obviously really good, even though like I would get annoyed with a character or two. Like that, I think that's what makes like a good book as well. Like the same way, like, you know, if you hate an actor in a show, like that makes that actor just so much better than like you thought that they were. Yeah, I really like this book. I really enjoyed it. It just made me feel so nostalgia for so many different reasons and so many different things, and I just remember walking away from this book being like, wow, like I really understand why so many people love Emily Henry, and it makes me want to read more of her books. So hopefully in the future I will read more of her books. I really want to read People We Meet on Vacation next, so we shall see if I get to that. But yeah, that was Happy Place by Emily Henry. The next one that I have is another Monica Murphy book, and that is I'll Always Be With You by Monica Murphy. After I read Happy Place, I kind of took just a hot pause just on reading, and then I was like, okay, I want to read something that I have read before. So I picked up this book. I read this book, I believe, last summer or last fall. In this book, you are following Weston and Carolina. Carolina is a ballerina who has lived in London or Paris basically her whole entire teen years. She has been a ballerina, studying there, doing performances and like going to school in Paris, and her family is obviously, she is a part of the Lancaster family. Weston is not. Weston Fontaine, his family just owns a winery out in California, but he does also go to Lancaster Prep. But they do meet one day on a night in Paris. It is her last summer there, but she doesn't know that it's her last summer there, because whenever the summer ends, her family and her parents are basically like, you're going to Lancaster Prep. And she's like, why would I do that? It's my senior year. Like, I'm going to get like the best position in this dance company that I'm at, and they're like, we're gonna pull you. And she's really mad about it. She does not want to go to Lancaster Prep. But her and West meet on a night in Paris, and she's basically like, I don't know what Lancaster is, like I don't go there, I don't live in the States. But she's obviously American, just living in Paris, and he kind of sees through that facade that she puts on for other people, and it's like he can almost like see through her, like without really getting to know her, which I thought that was just so cool. I say cool, but like just knowing somebody before you actually get to know them, like I think that just shows their connection. But Wes does go to Lancaster Prep. So imagine the first day of school, she walks into a classroom that he's in, and he's like, what the heck are you doing here? You said that you don't know what this is, that you don't go here. And he obviously knows that she's a Lancaster. And she's like, I didn't want to go here, my parents are making me. And they kind of like have like a little kerfuffle, just don't want to be around each other. They just don't really like each other, even though Weston like is very much like the trope that I would put on this book is the boy falls first and the boy falls hard, and the boy is obsessed with the girl, not in like a weird way, but in like a I just want to be with her kind of way, I guess. I don't know, not in like a creepy way. But you get to follow them, and you get to follow their story going out through Lancaster and doing all the things and getting to know each other. And like she's very much a black cat and he's a golden retriever, and like she makes this book so difficult, but you read it and you're like, wow, she just has a hard life. I say she has a hard life. Her parents are not around, and you get to see her walls break down. You get to see Weston break down those walls, and there's kind of a time jump at the end. I definitely enjoy this book, obviously, because I've read it twice now. I did give it a 4.5 stars. There was something about this book that was like, it's missing that one thing to be a 5-star, but I do really enjoy this book. I love this book. As I said, I love the Lancaster Prep series. So yeah, that is I'll Always Be With You. So in between this book and then the next books that I'm going to talk about, I did read Night Shift by Annie Crown. I gave this book a 2 stars. I would probably give it actually a 1 star. I hated this book. I thought it was stupid. Like, I don't know how I didn't DNF it, because it's just so bad. I did not like the characters. The plot was stupid. The plot just doesn't make sense to me, because like whenever you read like what the book is about, it really doesn't. I get it. Like I can kind of see where like I went wrong of not knowing what this book is about, but also at the same time, like I thought there was gonna be a lot more connection between the two characters. I don't love spicy books. I pretty much skipped like half of this book, but I guess I kind of wanted to see where it would go, and that's my own fault. I did put myself in this situation of I'm still gonna read this book and I'm gonna try to finish it. whenever I could have just DNF'd it and been fine. Yeah, I just didn't enjoy it. There was really no connection other than just these two kids wanting to have fun with each other. So yeah, let's move on and talk about the next book. So the next few books I'm going to talk about all together because it makes more sense than me breaking it down book by book, just so I can talk about the series as a whole. And that is the Cruel Prince trilogy by Holly Black. I actually picked up these books and read through them and enjoyed it for the first time. I actually read The Cruel Prince and half of The Wicked King, I believe my freshman year of college, and I remember hating these books. I reread them, and because they were on Kindle Unlimited, and I was like, you know what, I kind of want to try them again. So I did start off with The Cruel Prince. Obviously this is the first book of the series, and I enjoyed it so much and I was so surprised by it that I immediately bought all 3 of them, because why not? Then after reading it on my Kindle, I went through my entire book and tabbed it all up because I enjoyed it that much. This book is marketed as a romantasy. It's marketed as like, this is a great enemies to lovers, which, like, am I gonna dismount that's a great enemies to lovers? No, I'm not. But how they marketed this book, it makes me so mad. It makes me so mad whenever people market a book as a romantasy and it's really about the plot. This book, like, yes, it has hints and little dabs of romance in it, but you're reading it because of the plot, because the plot is so good. You're reading it because there's an actual story to be unfolded, and it's really good. If you're reading this book for the romance the way I was my freshman year of college, you're gonna hate this book. And I'm saying that so mean. I'm so sorry. I get really passionate about it. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book, second time going around. But if you're reading this book for the romance, just read ACOTAR. Just read ACOTAR. Even though it has a great plot, read ACOTAR if you're reading for romance, because this book, it follows the plot. So we're following Jude. Jude is a girl. She's a human girl, and her mom was married to a fae king who ends up becoming a king. No, he's a general. I don't know what he is. She marries a fae at one point, and then she's like, okay, I actually don't want to live in fae world anymore because you're crazy. She takes her daughter that she had with this man and she brings her to the human world. Well, whenever her mom leaves, she also kind of remarries this human guy that was also in the fae world, and then she has twins. So she has 3 daughters. 2 that are twins. Jude is one of the twins, and then another girl that is her sister. And so what happens is the fae guy, her stepdad, busts down the door of their human life home, like back in like Earth. He's like, I'm gonna take them back to the real palace because, like, what are you doing? He finds like the woman and he kills her. So he takes the girls back to Fae World, and that is where they have been living since Jude was like 7-8 years old. Now that's spoiler, by the way, because it happens in literally the first chapter of the book, and it kind of sets us up. We really get to see just from like the first chapter how violent this book can be just from the get-go, and just like how Holly Black like portrays her characters and like writes about her characters. Like, I really love all the attention to detail that Holly Black puts into here, and just how she makes her characters like have multiple layers as well, because as you unfold, like just from like the guy, like the stepdad, him being like such a brood basically, and you get to see him kind of unfold and be a little bit better, and you kind of feel bad and you're like, man, I want to like you but I just hate you. But you're following Jude and her being in the Fae world. Her twin sister Taryn is a menace. I do not like Taryn. I think Taryn is a very big backstabber. I do not care for her. But you get to see Jude and all the things that she does. She basically wants to become a knight. In this little thing that can happen, this like, it's like a trial thing. It lasts for like 2 chapters, so it doesn't take up the entire book, but you want to see her become a knight. Throughout these books, you kind of do see her become like better than a knight. Like, you kind of like still follow that same plot without realizing that you're following the plot of like, she wants to be a knight. Okay, well, she kind of takes over things, and then she like really takes over things, and she starts fighting and doing all these things, which I think is really cool. She basically wants to win a place at the court and wants to become just like a great person. Like, she doesn't want to seem like the weak human, and she doesn't want to seem as frail. But you follow her like wanting to just change that appearance about herself, because like in this Fae world, humans are basically like dirt to the Fae. Like, the Fae can treat them however they want because they're like, oh, you are inferior to me. But I thought it was really written very well. Once I got over, you know, from my freshman year of college, like now I'm entering my senior year of like, I don't need romance in every single book, or like just having like little sprinkles of it. This book is just so good, and it makes the romance that much better as well. If you're like, okay, like I can't go into this book for the romance, like I'm going into it for the plot. And you really get to appreciate Jude and like how strong she is, and like how everything, like so many things just tie together in this book book to the last book even that I just thought was really cool. But you also get to meet Carden, who is like the love interest, and it is an enemies to lovers. It's a very, very, very well written enemies to lovers, and you get to see them even just like throughout the Cruel Prince and everything that goes in with that. And then you get to see them in The Wicked King and how they kind of like take over stuff, and it's really cool to see their relationship in here and just like how they interact with each other. And like even in this book, how Jude interacts with her sisters and with her dad and her brother Oak. So you go from that and then you go to Queen of Nothing, which is just so good. And I just have absolutely so much in Queen of Nothing. Like, I basically color this book in. I just don't want to say too much about the series because I don't want to spoil a lot of it. I just really think that you should go into this book knowing that like the plot is just really good, and like the whole entire like kingdom kind of thing going on, like the war or leading up to the war, and like, you know, you go against like the people of like the water in this one. I don't know what they call them in here, I kind of forgot. And then there's like there's snakes all over in this book and stuff, just people. I just think it's really well done. It's very well written. I really want to read Oak's books because Oak has like a little mini series that's like off of this one. But yeah, I really enjoyed the series. I'm really happy that I read it, and I actually really enjoyed it my second time going around. But yeah, I enjoy this series very much. It's very well written, and I thought it was really good for like a YA novel. I do think Queen of Nothing, you're kind of almost stepping into adult. There were some things that I think Holly should have left out for it to be YA, but then again, it's just still a really good series. And if you're looking for a good, like, you don't want too much romance, but you want a lot of action, you want like the little bits of like good romance, pick up this book. It's really good. And I just love how Holly like makes you hate certain characters at times and then love them and then you hate them again. Like, you never know who to trust in this series. Like, you almost even can't trust Jude, which I just love whenever authors do that in the book. It makes it so good. The second to last book that I have is Chasing the Slipstream by Kanitha P. Kanitha? I don't know how to pronounce her name, and I feel so bad every single time I try to. Let me say, I loved the first book of the series. The first book of the series is a 5-star book that I found this year that I just falling off the cliff. Great book. I love that book. It is one of my 6-star books. I have that book almost colored because I love it so much. I was very, very disappointed whenever I read Chasing the Slipstream. This was not my favorite book. I feel really bad whenever I say like I just did not enjoy this book. I really try hard to enjoy it. I really tried hard to want to love it so much and want to love these characters and realize like they're not perfect characters, but I just did not like anybody in this book. I'm not gonna lie. I really did not like the main girl. I did not like the main guy, and it just makes me so sad. This book, you are following 2 characters. You're following a girl, obviously. What is her name? You're following this girl, Ava. She is a PR manager. She's a PR manager for a different team, like different F1 team. This is an F1 book. And she basically gets transferred over to this other F1 team and becomes the PR manager for the racer Rowan. This book almost made no sense to me in the sense of like the characters, because Rowan is portrayed as like this bad boy, like he sleeps with everybody or he does all these things and he's just like always running the streets and always like just being annoying. And then you get to like read more about him and he's like, I actually don't do any of that. So why are you letting yourself be being portrayed as that? And then you also meet Ava, who has a backbone but doesn't have a backbone, but does have a backbone but doesn't have a backbone. And it's very kind of like whiplashy about like how the characters act like with each other. I do think the actual connection between Ava and Rowan was very well written in the sense of like whenever they actually had a connection. I did enjoy those parts of the book. I think the biggest reason why I just could not love this book is because Rowan has a lot of anger issues. If it was written as like he is working on these issues and he's getting through them and he's maturing and getting better at them, I probably would have liked it more. But it was like he had these anger issues where he would just like throw his phone and shatter it or punch a wall and leave a hole in the wall multiple times, at least 3 or 4 times in this book, and it just wasn't talked about. Like, it just wasn't dealt with. And for Ava to be in the room whenever he would throw his phone or leave a hole in the wall, and she just was like, it's okay, you can be angry, it's okay. It really rubbed me the wrong way, because I'm like, in my head, I'm like, if you are okay with him punching a wall in front of you, what's to say that he won't hit you? And I know these are just characters in a book, but that's like where my mind went, because I got like uncomfortable reading about how he was so angry, and then just like there was no consequences or nothing talked about whenever he was angry, or there wasn't any like, maybe you should go to therapy, or maybe, you know, you should work on this before we start dating. Like, it just made me really upset, because I was like, I want to love this book and I want to love these characters, because at moments I really did like Rowan. I really did like their relationship, but then I would read those chapters or those sections where that would happen, I'm just like, I can't get behind a romance book where the thought of the main guy character, it could potentially hurt the woman character, or like any kind of, like if the woman was doing this stuff, like potentially hurting the guy character with like domestic violence. Like that is where my mind went, and I think that was the biggest reason why I just can't get myself to love this book, and I just can't see myself actually loving this book, even though I really want to. If that was dealt with in this story, or if that was talked about more, I think I would have liked it a lot better. But because it wasn't talked about or dealt with, I just don't love it. It's really just not my favorite. I did get this book, I believe, with 2 stars, and it really hurts me to say that. The only reason I did get 2 stars was because I enjoyed everybody else in the book. I enjoyed the other characters. I enjoyed the story of the book, of how their romance was like, they just really dislike each other, like they find each other so annoying that they end up loving each other, like, and then it's also forbidden. Like, I really enjoyed that part of the book. I thought that was very well thought out, like the actual of them going like, I find you so annoying, I really don't want to work with you and I hate you, to like, I may hate you so much that I love you, to, oh wait, it's forbidden, we can't do this, and like them being secret and then coming out about it and everything. Like, I really did think that part was very well done. I just could not get behind this book because of Rowan and because of the way that his character was portrayed. But that's really all I have to say about that. I feel really bad because the first book, Falling Off the Cliff, is one of my favorite books of all time. It was very well written. There's so many beautiful poetic quotes in that book, and I went into the mindset that I would kind of get that again in this book, and I just didn't, and it makes me so sad. But I am going to read the next one because I still want to give this series more of a chance whenever that next one does come out. Hopefully it gets better, and hopefully it just continues to get better from there. But yeah, that was Chasing the Slipstream. And so that brings us to the last book that I read this summer, and that is Adelaide by Genevieve Wheeler. This book probably has changed my entire life. I'm definitely being dramatic, but it really has opened up my eyes, and like really has changed a lot of like what I think about certain things, and just like how I want to be reading moving forward. This is actually Genevieve Wheeler's debut novel. It is the first book that she's written, and if you would have told me that, I would have not believed you, because reading this book has made me believe that she has written so many other great books, because this book was just so good. So in this book, you are following Adelaide. Adelaide is 27, 26. And she lives in London, England, and she got her master's there. She is an American from Boston who also lived in Georgia, now living in England, and she is some kind of marketing person for some kind of high-tech team, but she wants to be a writer. So she lives there, and then you get to see her meet Rory Hughes. Her and Rory Hughes met on a dating app. He is English. He's lived in England his entire life. Well, he's lived in Scotland, I believe, and he has a really tragic past of like his family, his parent, and he does something I don't know what he actually does. I think he works in law, or he used to, but you see them and you get to see their romance. But this book is far about their romance. Like, it's really more about Adelaide. It is about her. It is about her past and the stuff that she's been through and all of the things that she has learned and she has grown with over the years. You get to see her as a teenager have this boyfriend who was just absolutely terrible to her, and then you get to see her decide, hey, I'm gonna go get my master's in England. You get to see her meet her friends that she lives with now and these people in her life. You get to see the connections between her and her sisters. You get to see the connections that she's had just with the men in her life in the past, and you also kind of get the background of even Rory. As you're reading this book, you're almost reading it as past, present, and future at the same time, because Genevieve, she writes her narrator. It's told in third person, but it's almost like third person first perspective, but you're in the mind of Adelaide. Like, it's third person, but you're in the mind of Adelaide, so it's third person first perspective. You're reading about Adelaide, and you're in her mind, and you almost can't trust what is being written from Adelaide's mind, because you are reading it as past, present, and future at the same time. You're reading it as like, he was doing this, but it reminded her of this, and then you have yet to see what's to come. And it's written so like lyrical, almost like it's very soft, it's very lyrical, it's very poetic, and it's just so good. This book does have a lot of trigger warnings though. If you are going to read this book, I would definitely look at the trigger warnings before you pick up this book. I will put a list right now on the screen of the things that I saw. There could be other triggers in here. Definitely look all of them up before you decide to read this book, because I was listening to this at work and we come across like one thing and I was just like, whoa, I did not expect that. I did not know that was going to be a part of this book. I went into this book completely blind, and you just get to see her like go through, like, you kind of get to see her past, and then you get to see her with this guy who just you think is great because that's how Adelaide has been portraying him, but then as you read, you're like, this is a red flag, and she just, it goes right over her head. And then you get to read more, and her friends speak up, and she's just like, I don't believe you, but like you're in her head, and like the narrator even tells you like you almost can't trust Adelaide at all, and it's just, it's really good. And I just think that if you can write a book where it's like you can't even trust the person's head that you're in, and you know that, but like you still like want to, or you still just care for them, and like you care about the plot, like wow, like this book was so good. The ending is really good, so if you are like, this book sounds really depressing right now, the ending is really good, okay, and it ties it up with a nice bow. Genevieve does really well at the ending. I saw so many bits and pieces of myself and so many bits and pieces of like my friends and people that I know in this book and in this story, and it was just so cool because it just felt so real. And I say it changes my life because like as I'm reading this, I'm like, wow, I want to read more general fiction. I want to read more women's fiction. I want to even talk to people who have these kind of stories and just talk to them about like how they got through it and like all these kind of things, because it makes you like slow down and realize like what happens in this book is a real, like what happens in this book, like real people go through this kind of real stuff all the time, and it's absolutely insane. I really love this book. I really think that you should read it if you are looking for another like women's or general fiction. It's really well written. Also the cover is absolutely stunning. It's beautiful. But yeah, I really love this book. And that was the last book that I read this summer. There were so many books I read, and so many good books, so many books that I reread because I was like, you know, I just want to read some comfort reads, and sometimes that's what you need. And then sometimes you need to get out of your comfort zone and read new things and try them out, or even go back to the drawing board of like, okay, I want to retry this book. I'm really happy with all the books I read. A lot of them are really good. I would really only say there was like 2 misses throughout this entire summer, but the rest of them, like obviously some of them I reread, I knew that they were going to be good. But I'm really happy with all the books I read and just like with how they turned out and everything like that. But yeah, I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I know this video is probably like at least 40-30 minutes long, but I really hope that you guys enjoyed me talking about all the books I read this summer and just how much I loved them and how much fun I had this summer just reading for fun and reading just for myself and getting back into it. I am really excited to be doing so many other reading vlogs this fall. I want to reread Twilight, so hopefully I will get to that in the fall. But yeah, I love you guys so much. I really hope that you walked away from this video with a new book recommendation or just a new perspective. But yeah, I will see you guys in my next one. I love you all so much, and goodbye.